All right, so we're going to get into some really interesting stuff today about human performance, perception, the brain. You sent over this really cool, compilation of stuff.
Yeah.
Some scientific papers, personal anecdotes, and we're going to dive deep into all of it. So what's the mission?
Yeah.
For this deep dive, we are exploring how expertise develops, the role of early training, and the power of pushing beyond your limits. Let's start with something pretty unexpected. Dog fighting in the Philippines. I was surprised to learn about the bond between the owner and the dog.
Yeah.
And how that actually can predict the dog's fighting intensity.
Yeah, it's really a powerful example of how crucial those early experiences are. They shape behavior, sometimes in ways we don't expect. And it's not just limited to dogs. Think about boxers.
Right.
There's research suggesting a higher fatality rate in matches where the cornerman was a parent.
Wow, that's intense. It makes you think about how deeply motivation and those close bonds can affect performance.
Yeah.
Especially when the stakes are high. Okay, ready for a total mind bender? This one challenges everything we think we know about the human sense of smell.
Yeah, we hear so much about, humans having this weak sense of smell compared to other animals.
Right.
But that's not entirely true.
Really?
There's this study where people could actually track scent underground, similar to bloodhounds.
Oh, seriously?
Yeah.
Like, we're closer to bloodhounds than we thought?
That's right.
I'm starting to think I've underestimated my own nose.
You very well may have. And it turns out even medical textbooks can be outdated or even flat out wrong.
Oh, wow.
A neurosurgery chair once said he estimated about 50% of what's in those textbooks is probably inaccurate based on what we know now.
That's both fascinating and kind of unsettling. Makes you wonder what else we've gotten wrong. So if our sense of smell is more powerful than we thought, what's the big deal?
Well, there's a potential link between losing your sense of smell and cognitive decline as you age.
Okay.
Including dementia.
Wow. Okay. That definitely makes you want to take care of your sense of smell. Is there anything we can do to protect it?
There is. Research suggests that alpha-lipoic acid could potentially help rescue smell loss, even during viral infections.
Interesting. I also came across something called smell training.
Yes.
Where you actively sniff potent scents like lemon or coffee.
That's right. Smell training may help those olfactory neurons survive.
Right.
And could even enhance your sense of smell.
Okay.
It's like a workout for your nose.
I gotta try that. Speaking of intense sensory experiences, have you ever tried smelling salts?
I haven't personally, but I'm curious to hear about your experience.
Really?
Yeah, what was it like?
Well, the first hit is a total shock.
Right.
But then there's this weird feeling afterward, almost like you want more. I've heard people describe a similar feeling with cocaine. I'm guessing it's not quite the same thing.
You're right. It's unlikely to be purely a dopamine thing.
Right.
But it does make you think about how our brains are wired to seek out those intense sensations.
Right.
And how the pursuit itself could be so captivating.
It's like we're hardwired for challenge. Okay, get ready for another crazy fact.
Right.
Did you know our nostril dominance alternates every 2 hours?
It's true.
What?
One nostril takes the lead.
No way.
Then the other one takes over. It affects how we breathe.
Right.
And some research even suggests it might influence our cognitive function.
I have no idea. Our bodies are so much more complex and dynamic than we realize. It's like we're constantly discovering new things about ourselves.
Absolutely.
Switching gears a bit, let's talk about fighting. I was reading about liver shots.
Yeah.
And apparently the pain is unlike anything else. It can completely shut you down.
It's true. A liver shot can cause this delayed but overwhelming reaction.
Wow.
Fighters instinctively try to protect that area after being hit.
Yeah, makes sense. I also came across this incredible kick called the question mark kick.
Oh, yeah.
Invented by Glaub Feitosa. Have you seen it?
Oh, absolutely. It starts a kick to the body and then it whips up and over landing on the head.
Right.
It's incredibly deceptive.
It's like a sudden curveball.
Yeah.
It makes you realize how important it is to think outside the box and push beyond those conventional techniques.
Totally.
Speaking of defying expectations, let's talk about Floyd Mayweather.
Oh, yeah.
His counterpunching abilities are legendary.
Mayweather's counterpunching abilities are legendary. He seems to have this almost unconscious skill for recognizing patterns and timing his moves perfectly. It's like he sees punches before they're even thrown.
He's like a mind reader. I wonder if it's all instinct or if there's a conscious element to it as well.
That's the million-dollar question.
Right.
Our brains are constantly analyzing data and anticipating what's going to happen next. Mayweather seems to have taken that ability to a whole new level.
Right. He turned his brain into the ultimate prediction machine. I also saw this clip of Ilia Topuria, another top UFC fighter, hitting pads. And what struck me was his incredible economy of movement.
Yes.
Every single motion had a purpose. No wasted energy.
Topuria is a great example of mastery through simplification.
Right.
It's about eliminating any unnecessary movement and achieving maximum efficiency.
And it's not just about physical movement, right? I think that applies to so many other areas of life.
Absolutely.
Speaking of efficiency, Mayweather is still boxing in exhibitions at 46.
I know. It's crazy.
And he doesn't seem to be slowing down. You know, it seems like his dedication to fitness played a huge role in his longevity.
Absolutely. Mayweather was known for his intense training regimen. Including those late-night runs. That dedication definitely contributed to his sustained success.
And he's not just physically disciplined, he's also a savvy businessman.
Oh, yeah.
You know, he chooses opponents who don't pose a real threat, which allows him to generate revenue while maintaining his public profile.
It's brilliant.
Yeah. Okay, this next one is a bit of a head scratcher.
Okay.
I came across this study where people actually preferred to stimulate the parts of their brains associated with anger and frustration.
That's interesting.
Like
it makes you think about how powerful those emotions are and how they can influence our behavior in unexpected ways.
It reminds me of how much engagement there is on platforms like Twitter. Where anger and debate often drive the conversation.
It's a fascinating connection between individual psychology and what's happening in society at large.
Right.
Maybe those platforms give people an outlet for those intense emotions.
Yeah, maybe. It makes me think of the whole idea of voluntary adversity.
Oh, yeah.
Which we were talking about earlier. Maybe we actually seek out challenges, even if they're not exactly pleasant.
Right.
Because it somehow benefits us.
It's possible.
You mentioned your experience with cold plunges, which are definitely a form of voluntary discomfort.
For sure.
Yeah, for me, it's about pushing through that initial shock and feeling the mental boost afterwards.
I think there's a part of the brain called the anterior mid-cingulate cortex, or AMSC, that helps us anticipate and embrace challenges. Studies show it actually gets larger in people who successfully lose weight.
Oh, wow.
And those who push themselves regularly.
So by choosing to experience voluntary adversity, we could be training our brains to be more resilient and adaptable.
Exactly. We're essentially building up our mental capacity to face and overcome obstacles.
Right.
Both physical and mental.
Okay, I need to take notes on this.
Yeah.
I'm already thinking about how I can incorporate more voluntary adversity into my life. This whole conversation has me thinking about how much our early experiences shape who we are.
Yes.
And how that might even tie into talent.
It's a fascinating question. How much of who we are is nature and how much is nurture?
Right. Like I'm thinking about how much I use visuals to explain those complex neuroscience concepts to you. You know, a simple drawing of a hand made it all click.
Yeah.
It makes me wonder if our brains are wired for visual learning or if it's something we develop over time.
It's probably a bit of both. Visual aids and relatable comparisons are definitely powerful tools for learning.
Right.
It's much easier to remember something when you can connect it to something familiar.
Makes sense. It also makes me think about my daughter. He's incredibly talented at drawing. You know, I can't help but notice the influence of my partner and I, who are both dancers and musicians.
It's definitely possible that there's a genetic component to artistic talent.
Right.
But it's impossible to separate that from the environment we're raised in.
Yeah.
Early exposure and consistent practice play a huge role.
For sure. Remember that skateboarder, Jimmy Wilkins?
Yeah.
He uses his knees in these crazy ways, almost like they're extensions of his hands. Turns out his mom's a ballerina. And his dad's a conductor.
That's amazing.
That's a great example of how early experiences can shape our nervous systems and influence our physical abilities in unique ways.
That's right. And you see that in the whole skateboarding world now.
Right.
With more exposure and early training.
Yeah.
The talent pool is exploding. Kids are doing things on skateboards now that were unimaginable just a few years ago.
I know, it's crazy.
It's amazing to see how environmental factors and innate ability can combine to create that kind of surge in talent and innovation.
It makes you realize how important it is to give young people opportunities to explore their passions and develop their skills.
Absolutely. Having access to resources and encouragement can make all the difference in unlocking someone's potential and fostering a lifelong love of learning.
Speaking of exploring passions, I have to mention my experience with stand-up comedy.
Oh, really?
I was terrified at first.
Yeah.
But it ended up being incredibly cathartic.
That's awesome.
Yeah, so true. But there are downsides to putting yourself out there, too.
Yeah.
You know, I've had the unfortunate experience of having clips taken out of context and used to create these false narratives.
That's a tough reality of the media landscape today. It highlights how crucial it is to be media literate and develop those critical thinking skills.
Like that incident with MSNBC where they edited a clip to make it seem like I was praising Kamala Harris when I was actually talking about Tulsi Gabbard.
That's so misleading.
Yeah.
It shows how easily information can be manipulated and how dangerous it can be to take things at face value.
It also raises these bigger questions about how public opinion is shaped.
Yeah.
And how trust in traditional media is eroding.
It's a complex issue with huge implications.
Yeah. And it seems like there's a real generational divide in how people view the media. You know, younger generations seem way more skeptical of traditional outlets.
They've grown up in this world of information overload where it's harder than ever to tell what's true and what's not.
Right.
They're constantly being bombarded with filtered and reframed information.
You know, my dad, who always trusted traditional media, was blown away when he experienced that kind of distortion firsthand.
It shows that the media landscape has shifted dramatically, and we all need to adjust how we consume information.
Yeah. We can't just passively take in everything we see and hear.
Right.
We have to actively question, analyze, and look for alternative viewpoints.
And this is where platforms like podcasts are so valuable.
Right.
Longer form conversations let us have these nuanced discussions and explore complex topics in more depth.
It's about getting beyond those catchy headlines and sound bites and understanding the why behind someone's thinking.
Exactly. It's about hearing their thought process, their life experiences, and what shaped their views.
And by listening to those conversations, we can develop a more critical and informed understanding of the world around us.
Precisely.
Right.
It's about stepping outside those echo chambers and engaging with different perspectives.
And realizing that knowledge is a journey, not a destination.
Absolutely. We're always learning and evolving, and it's important to embrace that process.
You know, it's fascinating how all these threads connect. You know, we've gone from dogfighting to stand-up comedy, and somehow it all ties back to how our brains work.
It really shows you how much those early experiences shape who we are, even at a neurological level.
Right.
And how pushing ourselves, whether it's with cold plunges or trying something new like stand-up, builds resilience and mental toughness.
Absolutely. Now let's shift gears a bit and see how those personal pursuits connect to how we interact with information.
Okay.
Especially in today's media landscape.
That's a great transition. We were just talking about how information can be manipulated so easily.
Right.
Especially in this age of clickbait headlines and social media algorithms. It's like you have to be a detective these days to figure out what's real and what's not.
It's true. And you shared your own experience with how media outlets can twist words around. That must have been incredibly frustrating. It was. It made me realize how crucial it is to be really careful about the information we take in and to actively seek out sources that we can trust. It's like we need a whole new set of skills to navigate this information overload.
You're spot on. Developing media literacy skills and being able to critically evaluate the information bombarding us is essential.
Right. And it ties into the generational divide that we touched on earlier.
Yeah.
It seems like younger generations are way more skeptical of traditional media. I wonder if it's because they've grown up with this heightened awareness of potential bias and manipulation.
It's a good point.
Yeah.
They've always had to navigate a world where information is constantly being filtered and reframed.
Right. My dad, who always trusted traditional media, had his world rocked when he encountered that kind of distortion firsthand. It was a real wake-up call for him.
It highlights how much the media landscape has changed.
Right.
We can't just passively absorb information anymore.
Right.
We need to be active participants, questioning, analyzing, and seeking out different perspectives.
It's almost like we need to become investigative journalists in our own lives.
Exactly. And that's where platforms like podcasts can be so valuable.
Right.
They provide a space for longer, more nuanced conversations that allow for deeper exploration of complex topics.
It's not about those snappy headlines or sound bites.
Right.
It's about understanding the thought process behind someone's viewpoint.
It's about hearing them explain how they arrived at their conclusions.
Right.
What experiences shaped their thinking and what factors influence their perspective. We get to see the whole picture,
right?
Not just a carefully curated snapshot.
And by listening to those conversations, we develop a more critical and informed understanding of the world around us.
Precisely.
It's like we're building up our mental immune systems against misinformation.
I like that analogy. It's about moving beyond those echo chambers and engaging with diverse viewpoints to develop a more complete understanding.
Right, and recognizing that knowledge is an ongoing journey, not a destination.
Right. Absolutely. Embracing that journey is key. It's about being open to new perspectives and not being afraid to change our minds when presented with compelling evidence.
You know, sometimes that journey can be messy and uncomfortable. We might have to confront beliefs that we've held for a long time, and that can be challenging.
You're right. Growth often requires us to step outside of our comfort zones, challenge our assumptions, and be open to being wrong.
Right.
It's not always easy, but it's incredibly rewarding.
It brings us right back to the idea of voluntary adversity, doesn't it?
It does.
Maybe those uncomfortable experiences like your cold plunges or my foray into stand-up comedy are actually priming our brains for better learning. It's like we're building mental muscles.
That's a great way to put it. By choosing to face challenges both physically and mentally,
right,
we build resilience, adaptability, and increase our capacity for learning.
It's like we're training ourselves to embrace discomfort and see it as an opportunity for growth.
Exactly. It's a powerful mindset shift.
And that shift can be applied to so many areas of life. Our careers, our relationships, our personal development. It's about pushing ourselves to grow even when it's tough.
It's about recognizing that we're all works in progress.
Right.
There's always room for improvement and for becoming the best versions of ourselves.
And that journey is a lot more enjoyable when we can share it with others. This whole deep dive experience is a perfect example of that.
I couldn't agree more. Learning is so much more enriching and meaningful when we have a community to share it with. It transforms from a solitary pursuit into a shared adventure.
It's like we're all on this quest for knowledge together, supporting each other's growth and celebrating the collective pursuit of understanding.
And finding joy in the process.
Right.
Because let's be honest, learning should be fun.
It absolutely should. When we approach learning with a sense of curiosity and playfulness, it becomes an adventure, a constant process of discovery that can change our lives and the world around us.
Well said. It's about embracing the power of curiosity, the beauty of collaboration, and recognizing that the more we know, the more we realize how much more there is to learn.
It's like we're peeling back layers of an infinite onion.
Yeah.
The deeper we go, the more fascinating it becomes. And there's always another layer to explore.
I love that analogy. I think that's a perfect place to pause and transition to our final part. Are you ready to wrap up this deep dive with some key takeaways and a final thought-provoking question for our listener?
I'm ready when you are. Let's take a short break to gather our thoughts and come back strong for the grand finale. We've covered a lot of ground in this deep dive, from dogfighting in the Philippines to the complexities of the media landscape.
Yeah, it's been a journey.
We've explored some pretty fascinating aspects of human performance and the brain. What are some of the key takeaways that have really resonated with you?
I think what really struck me is this idea that, we're not just passive recipients of information or pre-programmed robots, but active architects of our own brains. Through our experiences, our choices, and even the challenges we embrace, we have the power to shape our own neural pathways.
That's so empowering. It's not about, being stuck with the brain we were born with, but realizing that we have this incredible capacity for growth, adaptation, and change.
It's about taking ownership of our own cognitive development and realizing we have more control than we might think. We can literally change our brains by changing our habits, our environments, and the information we consume.
And we talked about how powerful early experiences are in shaping who we become.
Right.
And how crucial those early years are for developing skills and talents. It makes you wonder, how much we can still influence those neural pathways even as adults.
Well, the brain is incredibly plastic, even as we age.
Right.
While early experiences lay the foundation, it's never too late to learn new things, develop new skills, and create new neural connections. Think about your experience with stand-up comedy.
Oh, yeah.
You stepped outside your comfort zone.
Right.
And discovered a hidden talent.
Yeah, it's true. I never thought of myself as someone who could do stand-up, but by pushing myself and embracing that discomfort, I tapped into a part of myself I didn't even know existed.
That's great.
And the cold plunges you do are a great example of how we can train our brains and bodies to become more resilient.
Right.
It's not always enjoyable in the moment.
Yeah.
but the benefits are undeniable.
It's about reframing our relationship with discomfort.
Right. Right.
We often try to avoid it at all costs.
Yeah.
But what if we viewed it as an opportunity for growth?
Yeah.
Those moments of challenge,
right,
whether it's a cold plunge or a difficult conversation, can actually make us stronger, both physically and mentally.
This whole idea of voluntary adversity is so intriguing.
Right.
It's like choosing to face challenges head on, knowing that the struggle itself is valuable.
Yes.
It's not about seeking out pain for the sake of pain, but understanding that growth often happens outside our comfort zones.
Exactly. It's about building our capacity to endure and overcome obstacles.
Right.
It's like weightlifting for the mind.
Oh, I like that.
We're building mental muscles that help us navigate the inevitable ups and downs of life with more grace and resilience.
That's a powerful metaphor. And speaking of powerful tools, we talked about how crucial it is to develop media literacy skills in today's world.
Absolutely.
With information coming at us from all directions, it's more important than ever to be able to critically evaluate sources, recognize biases, and discern fact from fiction.
It's like becoming an information detective.
Right.
We can't just passively consume what's presented to us.
Right.
We need to actively question, investigate, and seek out diverse perspectives. It's about cultivating a healthy skepticism and a willingness to dig deeper.
Yeah, it's about recognizing that everyone has a perspective, an agenda, a way of framing the world.
Yes.
And it's our job to piece together those different perspectives to create a more complete understanding of the bigger picture.
That's a great way to put it. It's like assembling a puzzle. Each piece, each perspective contributes to the overall image, even if it doesn't seem immediately clear how it fits.
We also discussed how the media landscape has shifted dramatically.
Yes.
And how trust in traditional institutions is eroding, especially among younger generations.
It's understandable.
Right.
They've grown up in a world where information is constantly being manipulated, filtered, and reframed.
Yeah.
It's natural to be skeptical.
Which is why it's more important than ever to have open and honest conversations.
Absolutely.
Like we're having right now.
Yes.
It's about creating spaces where different perspectives can be shared and debated.
Yes.
Where we can challenge each other's assumptions and learn from one another.
It's about recognizing that knowledge is a collaborative process.
Yeah.
We learn more when we engage with people who have different viewpoints, experiences, and backgrounds.
And that's where platforms like podcasts really shine.
They do.
They offer this unique space for longer form conversations. Yes.
Where we can delve deeper into complex topics, hear diverse perspectives, and really explore the nuances of an issue.
It's not about sound bites or clickbait headlines.
Right.
It's about slowing down, listening deeply, and engaging in thoughtful dialogue.
It's about recognizing that knowledge is a journey, not a destination. We're all constantly learning, evolving, and adapting our views as we encounter new information.
Beautifully put. It's about embracing the power of curiosity, the joy of discovery, and the interconnectedness of it all. So as we wrap up this deep dive, I want to leave our listener with a final thought-provoking question.
Okay, hit me.
If our brains are constantly being shaped by our experiences, what deliberate choices can we make today to cultivate the kind of mind we want to have tomorrow? What steps can we take? What habits can we form to become the best versions of ourselves?
That's such a powerful question as a reminder that, we're not just passengers on this journey, but active participants.
Co-creating our reality with each thought, each action, each experience.
Yes.
We have the power to shape not only our own minds, but the world around us.
We do.
And that's an incredibly exciting prospect.
It is. So keep challenging yourself. Stay curious and never stop exploring. The world is full of wonders, and the journey of discovery is just beginning.
We'll see you on the next deep dive, ready to unpack a whole new world of knowledge.